Hi, everybody. Welcome again to Big Idea, Big Moves. I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the destination podcast for high performers. We talk to people from multiple fields and multiple expertises, and we do that to make sure that we can get tidbits of information that you can use either in your business, in your personal lives, that help you be able to move forward in high performance and success in your lives. So we've had some really great guests on. We do pride ourselves in making sure we have those really high profile, great guests, and today's guest is going to be like that as well. I know you're going to be really happy to take away some big items from this podcast as well. Before we head into it, well, I know that this is a different time for everybody. We've kind of talked about that the last couple of podcasts. And there are a lot of people who are either out of a role right now, out of jobs, or are trying to figure out maybe things will look different for them when they go back into a regular role. So wanted to, first of all, just call attention to one thing that we have on our website to help people as well. It's called the Big Move Plan. It just it's one thing that we did at the start of the year that was more about annual planning. Things have changed a lot for people. Go on there, take a look. It's free. Just jump on. There's a nice tool to kind of help you work through maybe doing some new goals for your personal and professional lives. So you can use that template whenever you want. It's on www.bigideabigmoves.com. And then the other side is one of our supporters, Epitome HR. They are actually helping with being able to try to get people back to work as we move forward. So they have opened up a portal that we're also going to post on the website there as well. And people can put their information on there. And as things start coming available and coming up, you'll hear about it there, but they also will be able to help get you in front of hiring managers at the right time when those roles come up. So take advantage of that as well. So that's on the website as well. Again, www.bigideabigmoves.com. And so today, again, really excited to have Danielle Sabrina with us today. She's the CEO of Tribe Builder Media. That was ranked number 5 best entrepreneurial company by Entrepreneur Magazine. So very cool for those entrepreneurs out there. She was also named CIO's Female Entrepreneur to Follow. Her company's client list includes high-profile CEOs, professional athletes, influencers, celebrities, so lots of people that you would be well aware of, but not necessarily know that she does a lot of the workings in the background to get them there. She's a member of the Forbes Agency Council and is also an expert PR contributor to Entrepreneur Magazine, so you'll see lots of work for her. Make sure you check it out after this as well, but thanks for joining us. And how's the self-isolation going? It looks like there's lots of sun in the background there for you, Danielle, but you're still, I guess, inside like the rest of us.
I am very fortunate that I live in California. So
yeah,
I do feel like I have it a little bit better. So I'm very grateful for that, because I'm from the East Coast. I'm from New Hampshire, and if I was there right now, having it's snowing still sometimes and being stuck inside, it would be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having me on here. I appreciate that.
No problem. Well, we were talking just before we went on here. I think I'd like to start, before we get into some of that stuff, just about, I mean, you've got a journey that's a little bit different because you help other people get success, but you've been quite successful in building your agency. Why don't we track back a little bit about how you got there? You started in an area that really isn't as connected as you'd think. So why don't you walk us through that a little bit?
Sure. Okay. So, I mean, going way back, I think that, a lot of what I can do today has to, do like everyone, it's where you start. I was a teen mom, a high school dropout, delinquent for sure. I spent a lot of time in group homes. And then I ended up becoming one of the youngest traders on Wall Street at 19. Yeah. So that was the first pivotal moment that I can recall. I think was I remember I was working right before this happened. I was working at Kids Foot Locker, and I was pregnant, and my manager always made me tuck in my shirt. I was so ugly because now that's 20. My older daughter is 21, so it's 21 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
Those are not cute. Yeah. And so I just kept asking him how I could move up, really, and the reason was more just because I didn't want to be told what to do. And he was like, you're not, like, you can't, like, like, this is all your, like, this, what right now, like, you're lucky to be in this position. And really the most that I could be is like a secretary or a receptionist. Lucky. So that led me to, looking for companies that I could maybe work for and just trying to get my foot in the door. And the only big, employer was in the financial services where I lived. And I just kept calling and I kept calling. I got the number of the secretary, and because my resume, like, obviously is not going to get through. I don't have, like, it's like literally like nothing. And then Kids Foot Locker.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
grocery store, Kids Foot Locker. It's like all I had. I didn't even
Yeah.
to put on there. But I kept calling because I thought, like, maybe if I could get at least into, like, the mailroom, something. I knew that, like, if I could just get my foot in the door, I'd kind of figure it out. And then I called her one day to just tell her, like, because I had been calling her a lot, like, for weeks and weeks. It was so annoying, I'm sure. And then I just decided one day, I'm not gonna bother her anymore. Like, I'm just gonna move on and try to figure something else out. Maybe I'll go to, like, hair school, or, I just was like, I'll just figure something else out. And I called her just to thank her, to say, like, thank you. You've been so nice, But when I called her, she was like, Danielle, I'm so glad to hear from you because I misplaced your number. And I wanted to call you and tell you they're hiring, not in the department that I'm in or the building, but in another building for a position that doesn't require a degree. And she goes, but you have to pass the Series 7. It's a really hard exam, but there might be a chance you could get your foot in the door there. And she connected me with the HR person who connected me there. And I did pass my exam. And at the time, it was the third hardest exam in the United States. And I went and took it with all the other people that I was studying with. And a lot of them had degrees from Ivy League schools, and several of them didn't pass.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, no one's going to tell me anything. Like, once that was done, I was like, okay, if I could pass that and they didn't, now I'm questioning everything. Now I'm like, okay, all these paths that my teachers have been telling me, like my parents, my mom, like, like, this is the only way you can do it. This is the only, like, the only path that is, like, if you want to do anything or if you want to have a career, make money. Entrepreneurship was never something that was encouraged in my family. I don't think it was not discouraged. It just was never.
It was never on the table. It just wasn't a discussion.
My grandpa owned a barbershop in a little town. So that was probably, I think he's like, he would be the only entrepreneur in my family, I guess. Maybe, probably others. I'm just not thinking of it. I'm sure after this, my family watches this. But yeah, so it wasn't even anything like that I was thinking about. But I had a very successful career in financial planning. I ended up getting recruited to different firms. I was making a lot of money. I was like 22. I was making, like, well into 6 figures. I don't remember the exact amount at this time now, but, like, had a beautiful house, could take my kids on vacation. My daughter had a horse, like, like, everything that I thought, like, okay, like, I really screwed up and had these girls when I was a freaking teenager.
Yeah.
Like that's already, like, I'm like, okay, I have to fix things. Like, this is already, probably this is going to probably, like, not be a great experience for them. Like, I did end up I realized that in the beginning. So, like, I'm, like, also sort of a child, like.
Yeah. Well, but it must have built some resiliency for you. Like, some people, it works the opposite way, but obviously for you, that challenge kind of pushed you to do things earlier than a lot of people who had more opportunities or maybe didn't make some of those decisions earlier. It kind of pushed you to be a little more gritty and resilient than others might be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it forced me to, I realized, no one's going to give me what I want to be able to give to my kids. Like, no, like, I realized, like, no one's going to do that for me. Like, there's, I can't just rely on, like, the other parent, or, like, he was my husband at the time. Like, I couldn't, like, it was, I realized, like, it was definitely going to be, like, a joint effort,
Yeah.
So, then I was, I was driven for that reason. I can't say in my life, like, prior to that, I was ever, like, very driven.
Yeah.
I would say that I definitely am, like, I always lean towards, like, creative and, like, just wanting to do and experience things that were outside of, like, what, other people thought I should be doing. Like, I didn't want to go and sit in class. I wanted to go and experience life. And that's just what I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
There
Well,
was no
and no, but it's interesting. I think now there's probably a lot of people who are, that's the one thing about what's happening right now for a lot of people is that it's almost pushing some to think about, oh my gosh, I don't have the same financial position I had. I don't have the same kind of, things that I thought were, making me successful 4 months ago. Like it literally could be just months ago, and now they're having to rethink things, and some people may take it as kind of a driver, and some people may not, and hopefully there'll be a lot more that take the route you have so far.
I have a lot to say about this topic, actually.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
because now is the time. Like, I was doing my last webinar with Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Jason Pfeiffer and I, who's editor-in-chief, we were talking on the webinar, and he was like, well, what have you done? Like, what are you doing right now to like overcome this setback? Or like, what are some, and I'm like, I've overcome so many setbacks that like my confidence level of overcoming the setback, like it's not even a question. I know it's not even anything I think about. But what I feel like, and I really encourage everyone to do this, is take a step back and start really thinking about, I don't like the saying like life is short, but it really is. And something that I learned, it's a lesson that like I have to keep learning lessons also like 2, 3, 4, 5 times until like they stick sometimes. Like, I don't know why I have to like repeat them so many times, but like I consistently like can look back and reflect on like working like crazy, bringing in all this money, and then having to go away, and or like not really, it doesn't make a difference. Like that time, like when my girls were younger, I used to work around the clock, and I missed a lot of their childhood, which is super sad. And like in hindsight, like that wasn't necessary. And even right now, like in my life, I'm doing a lot of different initiatives. I'm involved in a lot of different things. I tend to grow things very quickly. So I need to like be more self-aware of that, where everyone thinks growth is a great thing unless you grow things too fast. And then it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for your team. It's not a good thing for your customers. It's just not. So I took a few steps back. My business took a big hit. On the side of my business, more on the corporate side, that I really didn't think, it was unexpected because a lot of the companies were VC backed. Most of them were pre-revenue anyways. So it's not really being affected.
Just gone.
Yeah. And then it's just like that. And I'm like, wow, like I'm thinking how many nights like my team and I have like stayed up and just, gone like the triple extra mile, and it just, and then just, why? Like for what? And so I'm thinking back on that time, and I'm like, I should be outside in the water. I should be I should be like, what does it matter?
It gives you a different perspective that you might not have had not long ago.
Yep. So I just kind of checked out for a couple of days, and I got I got focused again on I'm a big believer personally in manifestation, energy, working with that, how the universe works. It's, definitely a passion of mine. And it's something that I sometimes like separate from my business, especially when it comes to like PR for, IPOs or, just you're like, you just separate that. And when I took a few steps, a couple of days, just kind of checked out and did a lot of intention work, did a lot of energy work, did a lot of just, being like really figuring out what's going on. How do I want to move forward? I decided that I am only going to do things that feel good. And I know that doesn't sound like this earth-shattering statement, but like really, I am only going to work with people that I feel incredibly inspired to work with. And I'm going to say no to the other ones that I don't, no matter what the price is. And I'm going to be fearless in that and trust, because my life has always worked out. Everything always works out better than I could ever even visualize it. So like, I'm just going to trust that. And within days, I have attracted the like most amazing clients that I've already been a big fan of their brands for a long time.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. Like, I'm so excited. My team's so excited. And I like just want to focus on giving value to people. And that's like in being a better leader and being, you know, and just getting out of that fear space. So like now is the time to do something different. And we're all in the same boat. It's happening. This stuff is all happening to everyone at some level. Like I know everybody is in both the same boat, but like for the most part, I have never been alive at a time where the entire world is basically going through, like, at some degree, the same thing.
Yeah.
So why not create something that is amazing and do something that's scary? Like, you literally have the best excuse ever. Like, oh, it didn't work out.
Well, that's right. That's right. There will be lots of things that don't work out coming out of this, and you might as well try to be intentional about it. And actually talking about that, one of the things that you do see right now is, I'd love kind of your opinion about it, is that, you know, if you're thinking of building a brand or building back a company, there's lots of people that are looking and thinking, okay, do you go kind of all in right now and lots of content, lots of, you know, opportunities to kind of connect with people. There's others that I think have the other idea that, you know, right now it's just kind of build things internally correct and then do your kind of external PR stuff. What would be your thinking around that?
Well, that comes down to, like, I know what you're asking. What I would even back up a little bit and say, like, this is another topic that I'm like pretty passionate about recently, especially, is building your personal brand.
Yeah.
All of these other things, like with the timing of like, okay, when do I launch this? When do I really start creating this content? When do I go out? Like, every situation is different. Are you talking about an app? Are you talking, you know, like, is it like, you know, is it really something you can't talk about? And then like, how much time do you have to, like, what pieces do you have in place? Is your lead gen tested out? Like, there's so many different things. But like, if you work on your personal brand, that personal brand can always serve as a foundation for no matter what you're going to do. I mean, I feel like my agency evolved into an agency because of my personal brand. Because when I decided to do something different and I wanted to do something that was more in alignment with who I was, I just didn't know what that was. Like, I literally had no idea. I could not figure out what that business model would be. Like, I was all over the place.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to start sharing my expertise, what I feel I'm an expert in. And that's another thing. Like, it can be kind of fearful to be like, to feel like, okay, well, am I really the expert? Like, who am I? Like, you know, because immediately in your head, you're going to think of examples that are, you know, like the people who are like the best of the best in your field, or, you know, whoever you're admiring.
Sure.
Like, obviously you're not there yet, like, obviously, but like, that's not, like, where you are today is like perfect, because there's other people who need you to speak that language to help them get to where you are, you know, from where that makes sense. Like, it's not that me saying like manifestation is not going to resonate with somebody that, you know, cannot, like, that has their utility shut off. Like, that's probably not there's gonna be like a lot of separation there.
Sure.
So, you know, the language might change. So just get out there and start sharing what you're passionate about. When you're passionate about something, you just can't stop talking about it enough.
Yeah. Well, and you do see right now, right now is that time where you actually can see, you know, there are people that, you know, wouldn't normally be teaching music on YouTube, and they've decided during this time, okay, I'm going to do that. And they're, you know, they're a professional in their own right in that area. And they're starting to have people kind of connect in that they would have thought, okay, I'm not going to compete against the big companies that are releasing this type of it. But that's not necessarily what people are always looking for. They want somebody that they can see themselves in or project themselves through. And again, it's that the opportunity is there that probably we don't even have in the same way, you know, under normal circumstances.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Very
yeah,
cool.
I would say get your personal brand out there, because that is like something, if it wasn't from, I mean, even for me today, like, you know, just taking a step back and just using this time as more of a blessing, and just trying to, you know, figure out things that feel good to me in this next like half of my life. Like, I want to be able to do things that feel meaningful, that if I'm going to give my energy to it, that it actually, there's like, that's a true investment, and I'm not just like going through the motions.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, one of the things, because there are a lot of leaders that listen to this podcast as well, and one of the things is that right now they're kind of doing some crisis management, figuring out how to keep their people engaged, how to keep the customers they currently have. Do you have any kind of thoughts around, what should those people be doing right now? Like what kind of tactics do you think are important during this crisis management kind of time?
I think overlooking a crisis management communication strategy and plan is something that is really easy to overlook, because especially if it's a smaller organization or a small team, you might have a thought like, okay, let's just send this out. Let's, make sure. But without a plan and without, consistent messaging, without like having that in place and really putting the time and intention into that, it's so easy for days and weeks to go by. And then, you're just shooting off an email, or you're in responsive mode.
Yeah.
Take the time to really think about what's going on. I mean, if you're trying, like, be consistent and clear. That's definitely, I did a survey recently, just a couple of weeks ago, asking if employees felt that their companies communicated to them enough, and like 70% of them said they didn't feel that way. Yeah. So, getting like just a generic statement from you, or like, the CEO or whoever the executive is that's giving that out, like, if your statement doesn't make sense, just explain it. Like, you cannot just be like vague and like, oh, well, due to this, we have to lay people off, or, like, be very specific about that. Like, especially if your business it doesn't appear that it's taking a hit, because that's also like happening right now.
Right.
And then think about everyone's a person. So if you're trying to keep like your existing team engaged, just keeping their stress level down, I think, is really important. And just constantly revisiting your goal. I mean, with my team, I'm constantly telling them, like, don't worry about yourself, worry about the people around you, worry about your loved ones, I'll worry about you. And then every day we just revisit goals. Okay, what is our goal for today? What is our goal for, the end of the day? And like, realistic with the goals, like, chill, like, don't micromanage during this time, and just relax. Like, there's nothing that is going to be, or like, nothing that anyone's going to do is going to be earth shattering. Like, mode or putting pressure on your staff, that's just not fair to them. And just reassure them and keep the lines of communication open, and just let them know, like, yeah, things are changing day by day, but here's my plan. Here's my plan for what I'm doing for us. Here's how I see this playing out. And just keep sharing that and letting them know, like, yeah, of course it's going to change. We don't know.
Sure. Well, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about how in leadership in particular, that people are either going to come out perceived as better leaders or strong leaders, or they're going to be the opposite, where they're going to be perceived as in a more negative way. There's no real kind of in between. It's going to be one or the other, and it's interesting how many people are kind of bringing up the fact that it's your expectations they have to change, but you are the person who's setting the expectation still, so that it keeps things moving along, but also that you just have to be a little more open to understanding that, everybody else is, dealing with what's happening at home, and dealing what's happening in even just having to get on a Zoom call and watching people walk behind and all that kind of stuff. That's just, that's just stuff we have to all deal with. And, it's okay. Just, people are doing their best, or most people will always do their best. So it is interesting to see that leadership could come out in a much more positive way out of this.
Yeah. And especially with communication, try to get it proved by, a communications professional. And if you can't, at least ask like a friend or a loved one that will give you like, be transparent in their feedback, because that's really like, don't pass it off to your colleague to tell you, how does this sound? Like, get someone that is outside that has like their only vested interest is that, you know, you're being the best that you can be.
Yeah. And so, you know, the one thing is, as a high performer yourself, I mean, you're talking about at home, it's trying to take yourself back a little bit and you know, make sure that you're not as kind of heavy all in right now, but just maybe, or at least shifting kind of what that means to you. How do you keep yourself, you know, either focused and on task, or are there specific tactics you use and things from a success standpoint?
I would say what works really well for me is just I like throughout the day, I will take like a few minutes. It's not like a long period of time, but I'll just kind of revisit some of the intentions. Like I keep a notebook, actually right here.
Yeah. Great.
I like write just intentions, not tasks, but every day I write all of like the intentions down, what I, you know, like how I want to feel differently, what I want to, you know, like just to help myself also keep in line with the bigger picture. But
Yeah.
what it does for me when I, you know, like I just shut the computer off, light a candle. I play music, I play like classical music, or I'll play something that's like brings me down because I am very much a high performer. So I want everything done. Like I will not stop. I will be like, oh, I want to write a book, then I write a book. You know, like, and my whole world gets consumed by that. And it's not healthy. It's not a healthy balance. But taking a few minutes and just like revisiting, it just helps me reset my mind, and I work a lot smarter, like think so much more done than when, you know, you're trying to like dictate your entire day, and it doesn't leave any room for just deciding to do something different. I mean, sometimes I just decide to take a nap. So, like literally, I just want to take a nap. Sometimes I just want to stop and I go and I watch a movie.
Yep.
Because that's like it works, and I need to remind myself that like to give my brain especially those breaks.
Well, and it's interesting now that I think people are seeing that you can be productive, and probably more productive, if you take care of yourself in different ways instead of it just being, I mean, you think of how many people spend a couple of hours a day on a commute that aren't doing that now, and they're using that time for other things, or they're starting to kind of take care of themselves in different ways, and that may be something we change, that, you know, there's going to be this understanding that, you know, you can work from home and be very productive, and sometimes more productive, and still be able to factor in some of these things you're talking about.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And if you're working, I mean, I've worked from home for a long time, even when like I never go into the office. It's not even that far from me. I go into the office, but I do a lot of Zoom calls, and I do like, it feels like I'm with my team. Just for me personally, I'm some like, I need to have like flexibility and space, and just it works better for me.
Great. So you work with a lot of individuals in building their brand up the way you were talking about. So, you know, what kind of what does that entail? You know, if somebody's sitting there, there's some people who haven't done that. And I would say especially CEOs. So there's a lot of CEOs that have just been busy doing other things, and they haven't really thought of building their own personal brand up. Couple of things, you know, how do you tackle that with somebody who's maybe a CEO or wants to be an influential person in their space?
Yeah, that's okay. Especially CEOs are they so they I love working with CEOs, of course. But there is like, you really have to shift out of the like who you think you're supposed to be, and so quite honestly, like that's a lot of the work in the beginning, is just really breaking free from that. And depending on the organization, that may or may not like align with board members, and because some people don't get it yet. It's starting to get more, you know, it's the smart ones. It's the smart CEOs that are going to be investing in that, and they're doing that. And I'm like, it's a game changer, because the press start finding you easier. You're, you know, even below a CEO, we've worked with like a lot of engineers and IT people that we build up their brand because it helps them move up in the company.
Yeah.
They don't know that we're behind the brand, but like, but they're smart. They're like, yeah, if I can, it's like building your own personal collateral. Like, of course, it's like, of course, you think about like going to work for different organizations that have a really good reputation because it increases your value, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what a personal brand does. You don't think getting into CNN or being featured on Fox Business or sharing your expertise with Forbes or Business Insider, like it is not going to be like super impressive when you are either moving up in a company or wanting to look for another job, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, breaking free. So forget about the business you're in. That does not matter. Think about yourself. Who are the people that you want to attract? Who do you want to be around? I recently was revisiting some of the branding for myself, and I got very specific with the, my ideal client. But I kind of think of it when you're thinking about personal branding, especially for like CEOs, like think about it as like your ideal colleague or your ideal, who is your ideal peer?
Yeah.
And like really define that person colorfully and their personality. And it was interesting because for me, what I found was that, we'll just call it an avatar. It doesn't matter
Sure.
whether it's a client or a colleague. It was not their first venture. They had previous entrepreneurial ventures. They had initiatives that were somehow linked to humanity or improving humanity. They were very innovative. They were already successful. All of these different characteristics of these are the people, this is who I want to work with. And it was interesting because I was like, that represents my friend group. People who care about the planet, people who care about people, all of these characteristics. And those are the types of clients that I'm attracting right now because I'm putting that time and attention into it. Whereas before, when I was kind of defining what that was, I was really segmenting my market into what growth stage are they at, what series, what capital raise are they in? Are they public? Are they going to go public? Are they going to get acquired? Are they going to literally these are different categories because it just depends on the approach.
Yeah.
So, or they were are they a celebrity? Are they an A-list? Are they an athlete? Are they, where do they fall? Are they a social media influencer? Whole another category.
Yeah.
But I really didn't put as much time and attention into who they are as a person.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you really spend that time, because then that can start to bleed over to messaging, because then you can say there's a reason why you want to be around people like that. It's obviously your own interests. And so then that becomes your messaging, and that becomes some of your thought leadership.
And you probably come across in a much different way because we all know that if we connect with somebody, it's a much different conversation. It's a much, you can talk about something in a much more energized, engaging way as well. And so you probably also even elevate your own game by having other people that share those common interests as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you'd mentioned about, one of the things that is important to you is kind of that creativity and innovation and being, in that type of a role. You have people that work for you that right now, it's probably a little more for the last few weeks, I would wonder, is it more difficult to keep people in that headspace when they're going through something like this? And is there something that you either do to kind of help continue to keep things creative? Because the first thing that goes sometimes in an organization when people have fear or people have that kind of environment where people are trying to protect things, creativity and innovation is the first thing to kind of go. So how do you keep that in your field? And if somebody else is kind of in that, how would you say they might open themselves up to being a little more creative and innovative right now?
I would say definitely give them time and encourage them. And if you can afford it, even during this time, pay for it for them, is whatever they're passionate about, or whatever kind of hobbies that they like doing, one of my staff, she loves producing music. That's her hobby. So, I just make sure that she's taking her lessons, or that she has the time, and that I don't care what time of day it is, that she's doing that. So I know that's something that she really enjoys doing.
Yeah.
And it's also up to us to like be enthusiastic and step up, and like you bring the energy. Of course it's gonna, everyone, like that's your job right now. Your job is to like bring people's energy up. Forget about the workload. Everyone already knows their job. It's gonna get done, or it's like, you know, like that's just so crazy to like be trying to like, you know, like, oh, it's all right, let's achieve this, let's achieve that. But just calm down and focus on like raising people up, and they're going to have a more enjoyable experience and the work is going to get done.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll have
And
fun.
coming out the other end of this, that probably connects them so much more with your business,
Definitely.
because you did treat them that way through the tough times. So
Yeah. And this is my own, you know, personal philosophy is just like, for me, like I make sure my staff know that there's no line between professional and personal. Like whatever you're going through is totally fine. And I encourage them to talk about that. And like, I don't want them to feel like they can't cry or they can't like express themselves. And if they're going through, no matter how small it sounds, like to just, they don't have to tell everybody, but if, you know, just saying I'm having like a hard time right now, so let us pick up the workload for you.
yeah.
Like I really don't like that like stark contrast of like you need to be this person at work. Like, no, you don't.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
and that's finally starting to blur a little bit now. You know, I mean, I think the more traditional workplace was, you know, you were this person at work and you're this person at home, and now kind of I think that's starting to break down a little bit, which is probably a good thing.
yeah, let people, they're adult. We're all adults. We are
Yeah.
all adults. Let us figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
we don't need like, you know, like it's just crazy to me when I see these companies that are just, there's so much structure and, you know, like this person, they only have this little amount of time off. And it's like, how are you going to get anything done? Like companies are like, you can have 2 weeks off a year. What is that going to do for anyone?
Yeah.
Like that's, I mean, I'm sorry for the listeners that are out there that are like, oh, well, that's a lot of time, you know, like it's not. You
Yeah.
want to take 2 weeks off a year and you work 8 hours a day for something, you dedicate 8 hours of your life, Monday through Friday, and you get 2 weeks. Why can't we need to give more time. I don't even, you can take as much time off at my agency as you want. Like that's not even, it's not even a question.
Well, it's that difference
Like,
between outcomes based versus your time. And it's so if things are getting done and your outcomes are what you want, then that's like it's the same as work from home. So many people were, so many organizations had this thing where they wouldn't allow work for home because they think that you have to be available from, you know, point A to point B, be able to come into a meeting, all of those things. And this has forced it to kind of think of things differently. And you can see that, you know, companies all over now are doing this. And I mean, lots of people like you and I have done this for a long time, but a lot of companies were very hesitant about doing this, thinking that they had to control people's time so much. And they're actually finding out that, you know, when that work happens isn't as important as just, you know, being very clear around what the expectations are and what the goals are. And if you're clear about that, people get things done.
absolutely. We have one of the best success rates in the industry for PR. We have a
Yeah.
90% success rate of getting our clients in top tier publications. Like we have yet to fail. So I mean, it works. It's just like, think about, I mean, I encourage these leaders to just like, think about your own self. Like,
Yeah.
are you capable of successfully managing your life? If the answer is no, please remove yourself from the leadership position and get some training. But if the answer is yes, I would hope that you would, like your staff could do the same thing.
Yeah. It's treating people as people. Okay, so what we ask every guest is that we usually have kind of 2 or 3 kind of tips that somebody can take away right away. And so the one thing I think is really important is you've talked a lot about, you know, thinking about your personal brand, and there are lots of people right now are using kind of this type of podcast or lots of other things to try to rethink some of that. So for somebody that is taking that first cut at, okay, what should I do as first steps? If you could say 2 or 3 things that someone should just do and can do right away, what would they be?
Look at your social profiles, clean those up, and start looking at yourself like a brand. I mean, just start
That's
right
it. Yeah.
And the quarantine is lifted, please go get professional lifestyle photos done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of boards on Pinterest that can give you like outfit ideas and backgrounds. But yeah, like make yourself, your profiles look like you are maybe a celebrity or something, like
Yeah.
put that effort. Like you're the best investment you can make in yourself. And
Well,
post that.
and I like your idea of look at some people that that you want in your peer group, and some of those people have already done some of that work before, so it gives you ideas and gives you some kind of idea of how to build some of that for yourself as well.
And start sharing your story. That's another thing. That's a difficult task for many people. So
Yeah.
take the time right now and just start sharing it. You can start sharing it in little chunks. Think about that when you go to post, because a lot of times I think we have like when we go to post on social, like, what are we going to post?
Yeah.
Just ask yourself, like, what story do I want to tell?
Yeah. Be, again, more intentional about it.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, so Danielle, how do people connect with you? What are some of the ways to be able to, if they do need your help, how would they go about doing that?
I think the best way to reach me in that regard is through Entrepreneurs Ask an Expert
Yeah.
program. So you can
Great.
book one-on-one calls with me there. Otherwise, if you're interested in working with my agency, it's Try Builder Media. Yeah, and those are probably the two ways that you could.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. You've been great, and your story is awesome, which is kind of cool because I think a lot of people will take a lot of inspiration from that. But also, you gave some very specific, concrete things that people can be doing right now, and so thank you for that. And for everybody listening, make sure that you do go on and subscribe to this podcast. We'll have other great guests like Danielle, but also if you see kind of her information on there and everything too, follow her. She's got some great material on Entrepreneur Magazine, and I know she's got some great Forbes articles too that I looked at recently. So make sure you do that. So again, thank you, Danielle.
Good luck, everyone.
And we'll see everybody again next time on Big Idea, Big Moves.